Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monica Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our Astro Chat. I'm Kimberly Williams. I'm joined here with Monica Anna and Anne Sundell. We are 3 professional astrologers, 3 points of view, evolutionary astrology, karmic astrology, and a fusion of what I like to call pagan feminist astrology. And we're here to talk about the new moon in Leo. To give you some idea of what we're looking at, and we'll pull up the chart in a moment for those of you watching us on YouTube. We're looking at the chart for July 28th. And the new moon is going to be at 5 degrees of Leo, 38 minutes. So if you have planets or placements in Leo close to that degree, this might be even more significant for you. We're looking at a time of, I believe, 12:54 p.m. here in the central time zone of the United States, in the great state of Texas, where I live. We're looking at 6:54 p.m. over in England and 8:54 p.m. over in Finland. And if you do military time, well, I'm going to let you do the math, because that is not my area. Before we dive into things, how about a quick check-in? We did that last week and got some great feedback from folks. So what is going on in your personal/professional worlds?
So it's been definitely interesting. It's been definitely interesting month, starting with the new moon in Cancer. And going up to the full moon in Capricorn. I have to say the energies were high, the anxiety was high, the sleep patterns were a little bit off. So I think I took our advice as well, and I definitely upped my game with the self-care and making sure that I don't drink as much coffee as normally would, that my bedtime routine was a bit better. So yeah, but also it was a month where I did go a little bit maybe more within to reflect on the plans for the next 6 months. We are at the peak of the year with full moon in Capricorn, with the sun in Cancer. So it's a good time to check how far we've come, what happened over the last 6 months, what are the plans and visions we had for this year manifested, whether we still need to work a little bit more on that to achieve our harvest, or maybe there is a time to do some decluttering. So I have to say, for the next few weeks, I am doing a bit of decluttering and clearing a space. Probably a bit earlier than normally. Normally I do that around September, October time. But I feel like after this full moon in Capricorn, I needed to let go of certain things. And both physical manifestation, physical material stuff that I need to let go of, but also let go of certain patterns. So that was me. Very reflective month, I have to say.
Awesome. Anne?
Yeah, I think I made some plans of what I should do, and they didn't work out at all. So now I'm going a bit more with the Uranian mode and checking out what's going to happen, what's going to change, what's on a daily basis. I have Uranus in the 6th house right now still, so I need to have my routines changed and be flexible. So I've also done some planning for the autumn, and we also have astrological school that has been changing, and there's been a new kind of system there that I've been checking out a bit and preparing for. So, and we're waiting for the new family member still. That is a bit picking the right schedule, or how I should say. So I need to be alert. Today I also made my astro nails, so because
Oh,
I'm
hold them
preparing for it.
closer to the
awesome.
hold them closer to
Yeah,
the camera.
Yeah,
Ah, that's
that is
great.
pretty cool.
Love it.
a friend that makes those sometimes for me. So
That
yeah,
is pretty cool.
so it just happens.
Well, I've had a wonderful and frustrating month both. Or I should say 2 weeks. It's only been 2 weeks since our last recording. So I found myself embracing the Capricorn full moon with I got a new planner because I like to plan on a school year from September out. So I got the new planner and I got some goals and nothing went according to plan. Mostly because of technology. So thank you, Uranus, for reminding me to stop and not be so rigid and to breathe. And I took a page from Anne's tips last time. You talked about music and really thinking about the songs that and who they remind you of. So I started doing that, and then from there, I actually started coming up with what are the different chants that one of the feminist groups I belong to, we do a lot of singing and we sing a lot of chants that are repetitive and meditative. And so I've been trying to think about, so what is a chant that really captures Virgo? What is the chant that captures this sign? And so I'm in the process of kind of coming up with that and trying to, have something I can sing every night to the moon. I've been really getting in touch with lunar energy, which is not where this Virgo normally goes. But I looked at my chart and I'm getting ready to have my second progressed lunar return. So there's a lot of, as Monica said, there's a lot of reflection happening and really getting in touch with my heart center. What is it that I'm desiring, and what is it I want to nurture, and how do I bring that into my career and into my job and make it not just work but sacred work. So that combination of Capricorn and moon is still happening in my world.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking earlier as well about, like you say, that reflection about personal power as well, in regards to my plans and my work as well. So yeah, it's been a really reflective month in terms of what we want outside in the world, but we need to know within us what are those desires and what drives us as well. As you so gently, Kimberly, pointed out to me just before we started recording. Hashtag sarcasm.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, it's been an interesting, and to be honest, we will be talking obviously in this episode about the new moon in Leo. I think that reflection and that deep, what's the word I want to use? Discernment between what we want to be in the world and who we are at home. I think it's needed in terms of all the energies that's coming our way. We need to be rooted in what we want to know, who we are, for everything will be happening in the world, I think, in the next few weeks.
So why don't you use that as a segue, and Monica, take us into talking about the new moon in Leo.
Okay, so I will start with the positive. It is the new moon in Leo, and we were just talking before we started recording this episode, and it literally highlights yet again how we are connected. It doesn't matter what is the current moon that we're recording. It's the energy of the moon that we're talking about that we usually connect to. So we were giggling, we were joking, we were teasing, we were really having fun even before we started recording this this podcast. And this is very much a Leo energy. It's that heart-centered, childlike energy. I went a couple of days ago, I went to see my friends. We went for dinner, and they have a little children, and the boy is only a few months old and the girl is nearly 4. And it occurred to a mother that everything that happened to that little boy is new. Like, he never experienced snow in his life. So the first snow, it's actually the first snow. The wind blowing into his face, oh my God, it's the first experience that he has. And it was that revelation to a mom that, oh my gosh, those children really, really experience things for the first time, first taste of an apple, and first time they meet someone. And it was beautiful to see that, and for her to experience that with the baby. And I'm just thinking, this is the bit that Leo archetype teaches us, whether somewhere in our chart or whether during the year when the sun goes into Leo, and we have the new moon in Leo. this is the time where we can explore that childlike curiosity, be again amazed with life. Oh my god, look at those clouds, are they beautiful? Look at the rainbow. Yeah, you might have seen hundreds of rainbows in your life, but this is yet another one, and it's still a miraculous thing to see and to experience. And I think we lose that a little bit. The life gets too tough, it gets too stressful. There are worries about the family or the partners, or financial worry. There's so much to worry about that we forget that the world can be wonderful and beautiful and inspiring. And that curiosity at the new moon in Leo, we can tap into that. We can set intention for the next month to be creative. And again, I used to think about myself as not a creative person. I am fairly organized. I like my spreadsheets. I never thought that about myself as a creative, and I am surrounded by creative people, by painters and writers and designers. But then I realized I have my own ways of being creative. I will go into a kitchen, I will open the fridge, see some ingredients. Yep, I can do something with that. This is creativity in action. I don't have to be Van Gogh. I don't have to, paint an amazing oil painting. I can be creative in my own ways. And I think New Moon in Leo opens up a month where we can experience one, what gives us joy? This is always my go-to question. What brings you joy? Is it dancing? Is it kayaking? Is it playing chess with your friends or board games? Is it cooking for the family? What brings you joy? And infuse that with your own creativity. See what you can bring there. And maybe think about creativity a little bit outside the box, not as in you're not a musician or an artist or a painter or a dancer. But you might be a mom who is absolutely amazing in getting kids costumes, and everyone from the school comes to you before Halloween because you're amazing at creating things for your children and others. Appreciate that, embrace that, and enjoy that flow of creativity through you. I'll in here.
I like it. I like
to it.
You're on a roll. You're speaking to you're speaking my language, as they say. I find that a lot of times we talk about Leo, especially the moon in Leo, as about getting in touch with our inner child. And I feel like that phrase has a negative connotation because we've used this term inner child so much in pop psychology and in our modern world. And there's often that connotation of, oh, but my inner child was wounded and I need to do work and healing. And that's no. And I'm always telling people, get in touch with that childlike wonder and that sense of awe. And so I loved your analogy about the child's first snow, or, we can even just see that when we have a new animal, a new pet. And, the first time I took my dog to the beach and it saw water, and that it helps us to tap into that. And so I was raised by a double Leo mom. And so one thing I always admired was her ability to make everything a celebration, to make every moment, every little thing was a party, was a cause for joy, that, to get things to be bigger than what they are in the mundane world. And I feel like with the moon in Leo, this is a great time for us to really tap into and nurture and feel connected with ourselves as a creative person. Because whether you hold a paintbrush or you go to the museum to appreciate the art, creativity is something that is very uniquely self-defined. And I think it's easy to say, oh, I'm not the creative. I've done that. I'm not creative because I'm not really good at the fine arts skills. But, that's Libra's role, right? This is Leo, and Leo's like, have fun. It could be finger paint. We can roll in the paint like Pollock. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's about express yourself. And so I feel like this is a great month for really getting in touch with having fun, with joy, and just also recognizing what is it that I need to express, whether that's joy, whether that's pain, whether that's an inner child who's having a great time or one who's wounded. How do we express, and how do we get back in touch with, after we've done that expression, the joy of living, romancing life, as it were?
That's beautiful. I like that, the joy of living.
Anne, how are you working with this moon in Leo?
As a natal moon Leo, I'm here. I'm the Leo moon. I mean, something else I need to do. No, but just I thought about what Freud said about what's most important for the three most important things that a person needs to have. Very, very stripped down to work, love, and play. And the play part, I think, is really this Leo part, and we all have it somewhere in us, and we need to remember that playfulness in everything, and to have fun, and to cherish ourselves and our inner child. So that's things that I wanna stress from what you said. I also think about the saying that all those days that went by, it was life that went by, and to stay in that moment and be able to enjoy that day in the ordinary life. I also associate with Leos, and Leos are very good at making everything special, unique somehow. So yeah, that's what I think about with Leo.
I'm going to share with you guys, I don't know if you've ever seen a cartoon movie called Rise of the Guardians.
Yes.
It's a brilliant movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend. It's one of my go-to, especially Christmas time. This is my go-to. Christmas time starts, I start with this movie. It's about the Guardians, and the Guardians are the Eastern Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and the Sandman and the Santa Claus. And I don't want to give things away, but I think I will give some of the things away. So spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear that, just skip a few seconds forward. But they're trying to teach Jack the Frost about what it means to be a guardian. And I think they are very Leonian characters. They are doing what they need to do to bring joy to the children, right? And there is this one scene that is one of my favorite scenes where Santa is trying to explain something to Jack the Frost, and they have this Russian doll that looks like a Santa Claus, and Jack opens up and there's another Santa Claus inside, and opens up and there's another Santa Claus, and obviously there are different versions of the Santa Claus, until the tiny little Santa Claus that is literally nothing but huge big blue eyes. And Santa Claus says, you see what I am at my core. And Jack was like, well, big eyes. And Santa's like, no, I see a world with wonder. Like, I see the wonders in the world. And this is for me such an essence of Leo. Leo see that wonder in the world. That's why, you know, the family dinner is not just family dinner. It's not just some mashed potatoes in some veggies or some meat. It's the wonderful time where people can go around the table and can sit with each other, and it's privilege because not everyone has that, to have that moment when we can sit together and have that meal. It's a wonderful time. And if we see life like this through those big, you know, eyes, and we see life with wonder, it changes our perspective and it changes us as well. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's not difficulties out there in the world, but I think that beauty and that wonder can balance that and give us a strength to go and then fight for something and revolutionize something and transform something, which is the Leo opposite, which is the Aquarius. You know, Aquarius without that Leo spark, it's sterile. It's that revolution for the sake of revolution that goes bad. Aquarius that actually has that Leo heart and fights for the wonder, for joy, and leads with love. That's the revolution that we want to have.
Now, you said we're going to start off with the positive, but let's talk about some of the challenges that can happen, because I think when we look at the chart and we see that not everything in the chart, not everything in the next 2 weeks is going to necessarily support play and creativity, right? We may have to fight. We may have to embrace that opposite polarized sign to fight to make room for our joy and our wonder. And so what happens when the moon, which is our, you know, seat of our emotional self, what happens when that moon in Leo is feeling like everyone's coming at me? Nobody's appreciating what I'm bringing. Nobody else wants to get in touch with joy. There's just so much strife and tension, or there's no time to play. I think some of the challenges, some of the shadow side of Leo can sometimes come forward, which is instead of having this commanding, charismatic presence, we go into demanding. I set aside time for us to have this family dinner or to go to this event, and by golly, we need to do this. Or fine, you don't want to go? I'll go without you. I personally can encounter my own inner Leo sometimes doing that. That's it. I'm taking my toys and leaving, and I'll go play with them. Is sometimes when I get caught up with the shadowy side where I find I can go. And I also think that, Leo is a fire sign. So creative, definitely, but also it's fire, which means sometimes we can pull out the blowtorch and unintentionally flame people. There can be things where, as with the other fire signs, not necessarily understanding the impact. Like if we're on fire, either from a positive place or from a more angry or frustrated place, either way, I'm alive and I'm going to express it. And other people may feel the full force of that expression more intensely than what we realize. We can sometimes turn on the tap and let more out than maybe what was intended, especially with that moon pulling up so much of our emotions.
Yeah. I mean, new moon is the time to actually go and reflect, and where is that need for joy and kind of like self-expressions coming from? Like you say, the shadow side of Leo is I want to express myself not because I have that joy within me and I just want that expression. I need to express myself because I want to be in center of attention for one reason or the other. And that might be the shadow side where we're going about that the wrong way, and the need to be in a center of attention and have all eyes on you and always being, in a center of the conversation actually is off-putting. So instead of stepping into that positive thing of Leo, positive qualities of Leo, and lead people by who you are, by shining that light, by being this positive, heart-centered leader, you're off-putting people because you just want all about me and it's me. And what did I hear? It's about me again. And it can be off-putting. So I think this, again, the new moon in Leo, if we can set an intention to explore the creativity and joy, we're exploring the positive side of the archetype. If we are getting, like you say, swept away in that fire, we can burn everything to the ground. And then we're like, well, I'm left alone, but I am so awesome. They don't understand how awesome I am, and they don't want to hang out with me because I am so awesome. I am basically too awesome for them. And what about it? Oh yeah, I'm too awesome for them. No. So I think, again, the new moon can help us set the intention, have that moment of a day or two where the moon is dark, to go back and say, okay, what brings me joy? And that kind of the typical, again, I'm just kind of air quotes here, that the class clown. Some people are just naturally just that expressive, and you love having them around because they always have a joke and they always have that positive energy to share. And you walk into the room having a really bad day and they just pick you up, and it's incredible quality to have. And then you have some people that do that for all the wrong reason, and it's cringy and it's uncomfortable, and you can tell from your own energy that this is actually not the quality that you want to be associated with. So this is a really good time in the new moon to reflect, which side are we on and which side do we want to bring more.
Yeah.
And from what perspective are you using that, Leo? That is it like
very
to
much
be
so.
like a child, like open to the new, like seeing how can I go about this thing with new eyes? Or is it like I demand attention, and if I don't get the attention, I will create attention or drama or something in that area of life just to make something.
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah.
Drama is another keyword for Leo.
Definitely. All right, well, let's pull up the chart and see what is impacting this Leo moon. Give me 1 second and I'll pull it up here.
I think I'll just say as well that the beauty of every new moon and full moon is that it's not quite the same. Yes, we're talking about the same archetypes. So the Leo new moon will be always during the Leo season when the sun goes into Leo in the summer. and it will have that Leonian quality, but depending on all the planets around that are connected to the moon, it might be more expressive new moon, or it might be one of those that, you know, drags us to let's burn the village down and burn all the bridges and basically, you know, disconnect myself from that heart center that's leading me. So some of the new moons will have much better expression of that archetype because are supported by the planets. This new moon, who wants to take it away? Who wants to start on the planets that's supporting? Go ahead, Kimberly.
And I just want to tag on to what you were just saying, that you know, with a new moon, and we've talked extensively about our different perspectives about the moon phases and the new moon in particular. So if somebody wants to go back and listen to, I think episode 1 or episode 2, we were talking about new moons and full moons and depth. The new moon to me is so unconscious. This is really that what am I planting in, but also what is bubbling up. And it's not about our very conscious linear mind. It's not about what we already have awareness on. I think that a lot of times the new moon is about those things that we have new revelations about. So some of these aspects may really support that awakening, and some may just intensify that shocking, wow, this popped kind of feeling. So the first thing that I notice when I'm looking at the chart is this wide orb conjunction with Mercury. So the moon is at 5 degrees, Mercury's at 18 degrees of Leo. And for some people, that's not a conjunction. Everyone has different orbs, different range of degrees they want to work with. But with the moon, with the sun, anything that's up to 18 degrees away is technically under the beam, still in that influence. And so we have that to look at. We also have across the chart an out of sign opposition to Pluto. Pluto's at 27 Capricorn. We've got a wide orb square to Mars, right? Mars is hanging out at 15 degrees of Taurus, really squaring that Mercury, and by wide orb squaring the new moon. And we have a trine to Jupiter. So there's a lot to unpack in terms of all the different conversations happening within this let me wake up to my inner child and play vibe. I'm going to say that for me, the first thing I gravitate to, because I'm so focused on Mercury, just naturally in my own chart, I look at that. And when something is under the beams of the sun, I feel like it's really hard to access it. It's like when you look up at the sky and you try to stare at the sun, you can't, you have to close your eyes. The sun is so bright that those other things are happening more behind the scenes. They're blotted out. And so Mercury, our mind, our ability to communicate, our thinking, how we connect dots, perhaps our willingness to listen, I think might be really challenged. There could be, I need to shine, I need to be seen, I need to express vibe. It could be so large that it blots out but I need to talk about what I'm feeling, or it may blot out but I need to listen to other people who need to express themselves. I think it can also stimulate a bit of some maybe emotional bypassing. I want to have fun, but I need to express some deep emotions, and that's not fun. So we're going to just push them aside and let the mind process it maybe in dreams or in more unconscious places rather than talking it out. And that is, for me, pulling in that opposition to Pluto, where with Pluto being still in those last degrees of Capricorn, this could also be saying, am I making the time? You know, Capricorn being so focused with time, am I making the time? Am I too much work and no play? So I'm going to pause there because we have some other aspects, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about just this initial setup.
Mercury has been very interestingly, very fast moving forward this summer, like in the sign of Cancer. So it's really speeding up to this Leo, and it made the ingress the 20th of July. So I think about that square with Uranus, that's quite exact, about being a bit surprised, some news that you didn't maybe expect, getting to know things that might have been a bit hidden, and have to take a new stand, depending on what's the news about. But still, there's some kind of revelation or new information that might come with this new moon, that might demand that you need to address it, and then try to not have the shadow side of Leo, or think about how you're gonna do the mercurial, how you're gonna express it, how you're gonna what words to use, and how to go about that. That's what comes to mind.
Good point.
Yeah, I agree. It's a new moon, and you have that connection between Mercury and Uranus on the new moon, at the degree where a few days later, on the 1st of August, you'll have a triple conjunction. We'll mention this later. So it's interesting for me that I think there is something around that unconscious, like Kimberly said, unconscious new moon, and that messages that come through, and it might be shocking. It's Uranus, it might be lightning, kind of like one of those, like, I didn't see it coming, it's quick, it's to the point. It might be just internal, it's just internal realization. It's a new moon, you know, it's that kind of connection to the world within, to your heart center in Leo, to your unconscious. It's not fully in the light like it is in a during the full moon. It's those dark corners that we go and retreat during the new moon, and suddenly you might go like, oh my God, this is it, or this is what happened, or this is what was holding me back. It might be just that breakthrough moment that you needed. And I think that breakthrough moment will be then followed up again with that conjunction on the 1st of August. But I think at the new moon, something clicks. There's just too many connections around that new moon, and new moon is also start of a new cycle. So whatever happens, I always kind of come back to that new moon cycle, because something's up. It's like the beginning of the party that lasts for a month. Something happens, you have all the guests already there, already in the room, they are kind of talking to one another, or they can't quite see one another, but as the party progresses, they kind of go into the same place and they start talking. And I think that Uranus and Mercury will start the conversation. There will be some insight, some information, some shocking news that might shook you to your core, to your heart. That is might be like, my heart literally can't take those news. There is a Jupiter, sorry, I'm going to bring some other aspects, because there's a Jupiter trining that new moon as well, so from Aries, so something big, something unexpected as well, something that might expand what you're thinking and your sphere of what your heart can contain, in that kind of actually literal and metaphorical sense. And that will be then follow up throughout the month with some other aspects that's happening. So yeah, this new moon, I think that tapping into your heart center and tapping into that energy that helps you see the world with wonder will be helpful. There is one quote that I've heard, and I think that quote is from Ram Dass. When someone asked him, and I might be butchering that quote, but someone asked him, for advice or opinion, and he mentioned something like, you need to be able to, it will be difficult to work through hell with an open heart. And I know it's dramatic, and I think I'm kind of paraphrasing that, so I should have checked, but it just came up now. But this is the sense I'm getting. We need to stay within our heart center, because our heart will be the guidance on whatever comes next, and whatever shocking news or unexpected situations in the world with, it's Uranus in Taurus, with supply issues, with earth issues, with food issues, whatever, financial markets, we kind of mentioned that before, whatever unexpected news happening, we need to stay within our heart center, because that's the only thing that I can see that will keep us balanced and off that edge.
Yeah.
I'll
I
pause
definitely
here because I don't want to go too dramatic. It's Leo. I don't want to be too dramatic.
But it's Leo, so we have to be a bit dramatic, right? There is something definitely here about what's going on with our heart. I think on the one hand, because this is a square, this is a challenge. And for me, when the squares are in the fixed signs, so we're dealing with Leo and Taurus here, when it's in the fixed signs, for me, there's always this element of what am I resisting? There's tension, and the tension is to get us to stop resisting. And so there is this, I think, I can't keep my heart open in the midst of whatever the shock is. And that right now, just looking at what's going on in the world around us, it's easy to visualize or imagine there's going to be more shocking information coming. Regardless of your thoughts about world events, there's just a lot. And it's easy to want to, like I said earlier, shut down, emotionally bypass, not look at things. It's hard to open our heart and not sometimes dissolve into tears or anger or rage. And that's another thing here, I think, with Mars, there's something about what is the anger that needs to be released that we don't want to. And the big thing for me is, okay, it's squaring Mars. It's trining Jupiter. Jupiter's in Aries, the sign of Mars that Mars is a ruler of. So there's something strong here about, changing the pattern of what I do. There's something big. There's some big energy. It feels dramatic. It may feel like I'm being over the top if I go there. There's something I need to do for me. That fire needs to burn. We need to throw some more logs on it. It's Leo. It needs to not be a little campfire that keeps me. It needs to be the blazing bonfire on the beach energy. And I need to be a part of that. I think is that trine with Jupiter. Because Jupiter's going to just expand that energy. And at the same time, I'm going to resist doing it. I'm going to resist taking the action. There's an action that we all are going to feel that push to take or to do. And some resistance around either acting or perhaps stopping the inaction, I think is going to be so strong. And it all comes back to some of the shadow behind I won't act, I won't support, I won't put another log on my burning fire, comes back to the doing that means I have to break my heart open a bit.
South Node in Scorpio, we have to let go of some of those walls that we've built. If you have a castle with the wall and then another wall and then other wall and then the moat around it and the dragon, maybe get rid of the dragon and the moat. Like we need to strip back a little bit. There is this element. I agree.
It feels to me like we're going into the belly of the beast. Whatever the big fear has been, because we've been dealing with, since you mentioned the nodes, we've been dealing with this year of these eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. So even though we're not in eclipse season right now, this energy is there, the nodes are there. There's something about peeling away the layers and looking at our deepest fears and shadows and insecurities. So it seems to me no surprise that there's something here about go into the belly of the beast. What is it that I'm afraid to do? What is it I'm afraid will happen if I do something? What is it that is triggering the resistance to take action? I think that's going to be a big part of what's happening with this, and more that will come out as when we move into talking about Uranus, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot talking about the moon. So maybe we should move into talking about some of the other planetary energies.
I mean, even if we move on, everything, to be honest, everything seemed to be connected to this new moon that actually has a different energy. So Anne, you mentioned earlier about the stationary planets, even they are connected to this new moon.
And when I look at the stationary planets, I was reading a book on them, The Test of Time by Michelle Finley, and I think that was a really good eye-opener also about the other planets being stationary retrograde, that if you actually look at the cycles, they are almost always in shadow. It's very long time the outer planets are stationary retrograde, but the inner planets and also Jupiter and Saturn are not that often retrograding. So there's a difference in how often this is happening, and that you can check out more on if you're interested. But it's I think it's important to remember also that some of these, like for example Pluto, is very often in a different speed than the normal speed of going forward. So it's good to remember. With Jupiter starting to be retrograde stationary at this new moon, it also heightens its aspect that it's making to the moon. And I think that the stationary planet is highlighting and deepening that aspect. So with Jupiter, I also think that it's growth, it's development, it's how we can take those ideas and maybe also find new ways of moving forward with this new moon. Even it might be somehow unconscious in the beginning, maybe it might be a lot of fixed signs, then still it might give us something new that we can use to begin with this new month. So I think with Jupiter retrograde, I also often see that as very political, connected to politics, connected to what we believe in, the belief system, connected to how we want to shine, how we want to preserve ourselves. It can go overboard, yes, it can go overboard, but it can also make us go inward and really think about what is the things that I want to develop and what direction do I want to go now, and how can I use that in a positive way to get forward. I don't know what you think about it.
I love what you said about going inwards and reflecting on it and having the positive, or just going outside and going overboard. And it just reminded me of that quote from Carl Gustav Jung. And again, it's another quote. I apologize. I'll probably butcher this one as well. But Jung said something to the effect of, if you're not going to face your demons and kind of see them within, you're going to see them in the world and call them fate. And I don't remember if it was the demon or something else. I apologize. I'll check that and I might post it underneath the YouTube video for us. But the quote, basically the essence of the quote is, if you see something and you see it projected onto the world and you say this is bad and it is in the world, you will be driven by that archetype and you will be calling it fate because you have not integrated that within you. So I think every retrograde planet has that effect. It slows down for us to catch up with this archetype, to go into that retrospective, reflective mode and see that archetype within and actually reconnect with it. If we keep seeing it outside, and not actually having the personal experience, we will never understand or resonate with that. And we will be driven by either our repulsion or attraction to it. But when we can actually slow down like the planet, reflect on it and try to integrate it, we have a better grasp and we are not taken over by that archetype, because we can recognize the energy and we know how to play with it or control it. Control is probably not the best word, but play with it or work with it. That's a better phrase, I think.
Yeah, and when you play with fire, it's possible to get burned. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong to play with fire, right? I get the feeling here of like a person learning to walk on hot coals. That sometimes it takes a while before we can master it, but the initial impulse is let's just run and do it. There's something for me when a planet stations, that moment, and this is exactly stationing on the new moon, right? Because Monica, you were looking it up. For those who are looking at our shared chart, I tend to use what's considered white orbs. So for me, the stations are to the degree, not just to the minute. So that's kind of wide. But here we have Jupiter literally to the minute is stationing on this new moon. And I feel like when a planet stations, there's something that we need to download. There's energy. I mean, this is the closest point in where that planet and our planet are going to meet in our respective orbits. It's as close as we can possibly be to each other, is my understanding of what's happening when we're shifting into the retrograde. And so this is that moment of stop and receive and download. And so for me, there's really something big here about what do I want to grow? What do I want to develop? What do I want to see in my world? What do I want to see in my country, in my government? All those different meanings of Jupiter, it's about my viewpoint. And I think it is going to be very easy in the next 2 weeks to, as we receive that, and it's probably important to receive it. And perhaps we've been out of balance where it's been too much, what's good for others type thing. Maybe we need to have more me focus to balance things out. But I don't think we're going to be balanced for the next 2 weeks. I think it's going to be really easy to go overboard with what I want. Not I'm hearing what you want. It's I need to say, I need to put, it's demanding what I need. And so in the scheme of, mundane world events, that can lead to what is going to be shocking. I'll just leave it there and won't go any further. But on a personal level, looking at natal charts, I think there's a lot of people waking up that great shocking revelation of, but I need blank.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you say about that, because again, that Jupiter that is stationing on that new moon, and it's connected to that new moon, those energies are flowing between them. It really is that energy. What is about me, Leo and Aries, and what is it about others? And I think Leo energy sometimes is misunderstood in terms of leadership. There's so many leaders and charismatic people who shine that light and attract people for all the wrong reasons. We had throughout history, we had so many examples of the cult leaders and political party leaders that were not leading from the heart, but they were shining that kind of Leonian charisma that was attracting people to it. And I think Jupiter in Aries can be very much adding to that, expanding that charisma, expanding that Leonian light in, and saying, this is me, this is my point of view, and look at me. Forgetting that actually I need to get in touch with my heart. And when I get in touch with my heart, I understand that it's more than just me. I need to shine the light in service of others. So for me, that kind of polarity, I go back to polarity with Aquarius. For me, that polarity is understanding that to serve others in Aquarius, I need to be the best I can be, because there is no one on this earth that they can do the things that I can do in exactly my way, or can say the things that I can say in exactly my way. There are people who probably do the same thing, but not quite the way you do it. We have tons of English teachers, and there will be 2 or 3 that really will resonate with you at school. The others won't, not because they had a different training, but they shine the light that you understand. And I think that's the Leo quality. Be that unique version of self in order to, to be of service to others, to be of service to a bigger whole. But when we do that, and again, we had those leaders as well throughout the history that stepped into that unique quality that only they had, and they served a bigger purpose. Not because they set this, their eye like, oh yeah, I'm just going to become the biggest leader in the world, but because they had something led from the heart. And this is interesting new moon when it's talking to Jupiter, like Anne said, it is about politics. It is about our belief system. And again, our politics are our belief systems, whether it's conservative or Republicans, whether you are Tory, or Green Party, whichever side you're on, that is part of your belief system. You live your life based on those beliefs and those rules. So this is an interesting time of introspection and seeing, am I burning that fire to attract others and share that warmth and beauty? Or am I burning that fire to burn others because I don't care if they have it or not. I want to burn my fire the way I want it because I want it.
Yeah. And here's an interesting point, right? Because so many people that I have been talking to, especially students, they're like, but wait a minute, Jupiter's the great benefic. And wait a minute, but a trine is harmonious. Yeah. What happens? What happens when you let fire run loose without any constraints? Right.
Yeah.
And one of the shadow sides, every planet has its strength and its shadow. One of the shadow sides of Jupiter is my way or the highway. I know what's right for you. I have found the belief, and I am going to bring that to you. So you need to believe the way I do, not it's a live and let live philosophy. And especially in Aries, it's going to be my way is the right way and is in the best interest of all. It's going to bring us better. So I do think there's going to be some possibility for outlandish, over the top, extreme, excessive behaviors.
So you're touching on something that is very close to my heart and triggers me just slightly. It's the whole idea of benefic and malefic. And I think to a certain extent, this is our projection, because there are certain lessons that Jupiter brings that are easier to swallow, and certain lessons, for example, that Saturn brings that are not so easy to swallow. But I think astrology doesn't really bring the good or bad. Jupiter just talks about expansion, and it talks about, bigger is better. And a lot of the time, expansion is great, right? We don't want people to put boundaries on us. We don't want Saturn to limit us and put the boundaries on us. We want to expand. But expansion without the Saturnian limits won't be that good. So, having a piece of beautiful chocolate cake, oh my God, it's amazing. Vanilla ice cream on top, I'm good with that. But try to eat the whole cake, you'll be so ill for days after that. And this is kind of the Jupiterian energy.
Yeah.
You can expand, but is it good for you? And with trines and squares as well, the way I look at it is that those planets just works in harmony, but two thieves working in harmony are still two thieves, So again, the trine or square are not good or bad. It's just they're showing easier flow of energy, but that energy might not be a positive energy. That energy might be an energy of like, you're going to go and literally burn yourself out. A Jupiter expansion without Saturnian boundaries, you will work 100 hours weeks or whatever, 48 hours a day kind of thing, joking, and you will burn yourself out. You can probably tell that I'm really, really like Saturn.
No.
Yeah, shocking, I know. But we need that kind of energy of boundaries and time limits and structure as well. So yeah, I think that trine, it just shows that easier flow, which means we'll be easier accessing those energies. But how we express them, it's very much depends on our conditioning, our upbringing, our level of awareness.
Yeah. I think it'd be great at some point in the future to actually have an episode where we talk about our astrological triggers. Because we've had private conversation before about things that we see a lot of that, that could be a really great episode. So put in the comments, guys, if you who are watching us would like to hear that, because I think that could be a lot of fun.
I'm just thinking that's not going to be a episode. That will be like a series of episodes. What really, really, really annoys me.
But Anne, I think you weren't done. I think we just kind of went off on our tangents, and we're going to talk about Chiron as well.
Yeah, but no problem. This is a fiery episode, so we're going with the flow, with also Uranus where it takes us. But with Jupiter, I just want to say that it can be good to go and check out which leaders that has had Jupiter stationary retrograde in the charts. It might be interested. I'm not mentioning any names, but you can go and check it out. Also check out who has got, for example, writers that has got Mercury in Leo, or musicians, or yeah, so that way you can also explore these themes. Yes, at the same time, Chiron, the half brother of Jupiter in mythology, is going to be going retrograde, and with Chiron in Aries, I think about honesty. I think also about really being honest with yourself. I mean, Chiron is the wound. Chiron is symbolizing also something that we might feel as a weaknesses in ourselves, for example, or something that we might not want to see always. We were talking about new moon being a conscious time. So I think this might also give us an opportunity to be honest with ourselves about things that is a problem or that we see that is an issue. And I see that Monica want to say something, so I'm going
Are
I was
you
just
sure,
listening.
Monica?
to talk about Chiron too. So yeah,
For the first time, Kimberly ever. Nothing to say.
Wow.
Well, I do have Mercury in Aquarius, so I have to say that. Yeah, my Mercury's in Aquarius in a third house. So yes, I kind of have always something to say. I
Yeah, the look on your
apologize.
face just looked like you were ready to say something. But until you gather what it is you're going to say, I'll jump in there and just say that I think this has a lot to do with that what I was alluding to earlier about maybe the inner child work that could be part of this new moon lunation. I think this is a great opportunity to really bring some healing, maybe to bring up to see, that sometimes what we think is our wound that we're carrying, there could be another wound. It may not only be that one, there could be something else too, or there could be another layer to it that we didn't quite see. And so I'm hoping that for many people, this will bring opportunities to heal the self, to bring their personal self forward, and figure and see or identify and heal what has stopped that from happening before.
and I think that also Chiron and Jupiter works quite well together because also through mythology their history together and how they kind of helped each other there and how they were related to and so on. So I think that that highlights the opportunity to work with it also.
Yeah. And I think it's important to understand that, sometimes doing something, Aries energy is about just do it. It isn't about doing it perfect. This isn't about doing it with grace. I find that a lot of times it's so easy to hold back the reins, going back to that square with Mars, right? It's easy to hold back the reins because I haven't figured out how to do XYZ the quote unquote right way or the acceptable way or the way. Well, sometimes you're just going to make waves. Sometimes you got to play with fire and you're going to get burned. And that's how we learn, is through the repetition and the different times that we start. And sometimes it's through starting and failing that failure can teach us. So it isn't about always doing it right. It's about, I hate to sound like a Nike commercial, just do it. And if it's a little sloppy and a little messy, it's okay, because the healing here, I think, comes in the taking the action, not in how well we take the action.
It's beautiful beautiful said. You guys covered that. Nothing else to add from me except for I would be interested to look at the Nike birth chart and see how much Aries is there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe another idea for an episode. Just look at the big brands and see how their logo and their slogan actually resonates.
See the astrological archetypes at play. Yeah.
Yeah. So are we moving on to our triple conjunction?
Yeah, take it away, Monica. Lead us into Uranus.
Deep breath in and the knot in a stomach. So a few days after the new moon, like I mentioned earlier, at the degree that the Uranus square the Mercury at the new moon, on the 1st of August, we will have a triple conjunction, and that conjunction will be between Mars, Uranus, and North Node. And the last time this conjunction happened in Taurus, between Uranus and North Node, in Taurus specifically, it was 1855. So if you want to have a look back, the beauty of astrology is that it comes in cycles, and the cycles are linked by themes, by the archetypal themes. So we're not predicting. I love what Richard Hanna says. We don't predict astrology, we predict the archetypes and the themes. So for me, that conjunction, I am not gonna lie, it's giving me a little bit of a knot in my stomach. It feels volatile. It feels out of the blue. It feels, it has that energy of breakthrough on so many layers. It is linked to Taurus. So we have the breaks and breakthroughs in nature. It can be linked to the food supply purely because the nature is creating havoc with the weather. So we might not have the crops, or the crops might be destroyed, or the supply chain is not quite there. I mean, Kimberly, you've been talking about the supply chain since 2018, since Uranus entered Taurus as well. So there is some kind of breakthrough that can create, an aggression. There is that kind of aggressive energy. It can be linked to financial markets and housing markets as well. So around that 1st of August, I would expect some interesting, volatile, out of the blue news being out there, making us anxious, bringing the fear, bringing the anxiety, and bringing up the lack of feeling safe and secure. We're standing on the earth, and the worst thing that can happen, or one of the worst things that can happen, if you experience an earthquake, you realize that earth is actually not stable. It doesn't create, that when we say stable ground under our feet, the earth is just tiny little sliver on a core within the earth. It's not actually that stable. And when you experience an earthquake for yourself, you can see how unstable that can be. And for me, that triple conjunction have that destabilizing effect. Whether it's suddenly you realize that your country might not have power, or there might be an issue with power connectivity, or supply of petrol, or supply of food to the supermarket, or something is missing, it will destabilize the place where we feel safe and secure, which by default will create that anxiety and difficulties in us.
Yeah. And the fact that Uranus is making a partile square to that Mercury, to me, just intensifies this idea of transportation, of technology, of that the hurdles and the unexpected snafus, whatever they are, they can be about communication, but I think they're more about the tools with which things get from A to B. So I'm with you. I'm really thinking that either that in whatever way Uranus erupts, it feels very volcanic to me, having Mars right there and Uranus there. I feel like that volcano is about to erupt. We may have had tremors, but now there's some type of something coming forward in our world. It isn't just about the issue. So it could be about money, it could be about food, it could be about the environment. But what makes it so volatile is that the way in which we've been able to sustain it, manage it, move it, share it, transfer it, I think is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, transfer it. Yeah, that's what's really being affected as well. And so it's not like there's an instant way or plan to regroup. Regroup can happen, but it's not an instantaneous regroup. This is definitely going to be a transit that makes us stop and take notice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, all those things that I've mentioned, they're symptoms. They're symptoms of a bigger thing. And I think the bigger thing is that Uranus in Taurus transit, which takes 7 years, and also those nodes, which talk about how, are we sustainable? emotionally, financially, as a people, as a families, as a countries. Where is that stability that we have? Where is the resources that we have? How we share those resources? So being shaken to the core, it might be what we need to rethink how we share the resources, how we abuse maybe some of our resources, or how inadequately and what is the inequality in sharing the resources, again, between the people within the family, within the country, between different countries and different regions. So I think what will happen is just those kind of symptoms of an illness that's been going on a little bit longer. And like you say, we felt the tremors since 2018 when the Uranus went into Taurus, and it kind of feels like those tremors will erupt now. We still have another year of North Node in Taurus, and we still have another, I want to say 3 years of Uranus in Taurus, or longer. I think it's 3 years, isn't it?
It's 3, yeah.
So this is not beginning nor the end. This is the moment where, when you feel bad and everything creaks, and then you actually feel ill, and you have to look at what makes you ill, and you have to stop and take notice. This kind of feels like that illness that's been going on, especially linked to Earth and the Earth resources as well. It's bursting, it's erupting, and it's making us stop being shocked, but making us pay attention. And it might be shocking, might be volatile, but there is no turning away from that. This kind of feels like the bit that you can't just sweep under the carpet.
And we have the week after this, as Mars is moving at a decent clip. Mars is here on this new moon, and as you said, by August 1st, they're all, perfecting their conjunctions. But a week later, on the 10th of August, I think it is, Mars will make an exact square to Saturn. So that Mars at 23 of Taurus will be squaring our retrograde Saturn in Aquarius. And to me, Saturn is always about the institutions that support our society, and the structures, the way we structure things so that we can, move forward. And I think this just brings another layer of this volatility that something needs to change. And of course, we've been seeing this since December of 2020, right? When Saturn entered Aquarius, we've been seeing this energy of something has to change. We need to, people are calling for not just change, but, tear it down and build something new. How, defund, all these different phrases. How Aquarian is that? So there's something here where I think this is the big wake-up call of there's no more denying something isn't broken, as Monica was saying, that it may have been already broken and we've been dealing with the symptoms, but now it's the wake-up call that something has to not just be changed, but totally be restructured.
I have to say, I like that this moment is happening as we are in Leo season, because it just feels, again, going back to those themes that we are bringing about the new moon, you can't create that revolution. You can't share resource or look at things if you don't go back to your heart center. We need to create a change, but that change can't be dry. That change can't be, yet another reform in the same system that created the issue. We need to go back to the roots, but go back to what we really need as people, what we need as an individual, as a culture, as a society, going back to that heart center leadership that we need. And we've seen that actually some of that emerging in so many countries, that there is a different quality to some of the new politicians on the stage, that they are bringing that heart center awareness, that their activism, their policies is driven from a genuine compassion. It might not be easy. They're still limited within the system that they work, but there is a different quality to those politicians. They are disruptors to the system that has been so disconnected from people, that doesn't even remember how it is to be one of the common folks, as we would say it here on the Isles. So I like that disruption happens in a Leo season. It would be different quality if it happened during Scorpio season, and I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and when this conjunction is in Taurus, I also think about new ideas and new plans that might just start right now, and that will bear fruit in 10 years or 15 years. Or to set the new intention that's a long-range goal. It's not something that's going to change in a few months, but it's going to be something that will change a lot on a global scale later.
Yeah.
So,
and it's beautiful that you touched on that, because to remind our listeners as well, Uranus cycle is 84-year cycle. So if you're lucky, you will experience your Uranus return. But chances are, if you're listening to this, you're probably the first time in your life that Uranus is in Taurus. But if you look back at the Uranian history, 80 years ago, whatever happened there, whatever broke, whatever systems or issues kind of came to a head, it laid the ground for the systems that we have now, for the system that supported us now. So it's interesting to see what's breaking now, what we can do for people in the next 80 years. As I always think about astrology, that as intimate and personal it is, it also shows us this bigger cycle that we see that what we do now will take effect in 12 years, 30 years, 80 years. And I think for me personally, it makes me feel like I am part of that bigger whole, because whatever happened now with those transits and whatever I can contribute and build or disrupt and dismantle, I contribute to something that is not going to bear fruit in the next 2 years or 10 years, but potentially the next 12, 30 or 80. So it's definitely interesting times that we're living in.
Definitely. And I love that you use the phrases disrupt and dismantle, because I really think that's what we're in right now. This age of, since we had the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn starting in Aquarius, it's been this energy of what the universe is disrupting our normal daily flow, so we can see what is broken and needs to be dismantled, because we can't just keep going forward the same old way.
Yeah. Or maybe universe doesn't think like that, I love that quote from ancient, I think, Greece, that the only constant is change. For universe, it's like, well, it's yet another Tuesday. And for us, it's like, oh my God, there's this big change and we have to dismantle and rebuild. And universe goes like, yep, it's another eon, another season. And there'll be another one to disrupt and dismantle, and another one of building, and another one of disrupt and dismantle. So yeah, it's always perspective, isn't it? It's depending if we're looking from an 80-year-old life, or or life of a planet that is million years old, or a universe that is billions years old. So yeah. Oh, we went philosophical there. That's not a Leo energy at all. I feel like I need to make a joke now.
Well, the Uranus, as you say, it puts a knot in my stomach. I'm both excited. It's like a roller coaster. I am both excited and terrified simultaneously.
Yeah.
So is there anything else about this chart y'all have a burning desire to mention or look at before we move into our tips? No? Okay, who wants to go first with a tip of how to work with this lunation?
Me.
Yay, go for it, Monica.
I have to say, I love what Marie Kondo says. She refers to the decluttering, but when she says, does that spark joy in you? And I think this is such a Leonian phrase. So I would encourage people to, on this new moon, really dig deeper and say, what sparked joy in me. And what I mean by joy, it's that deep sense of beauty and wonder and just joyful energy, not just desire, not just something that is fleeting and it's fleeting, but that deep kind of joy that fills you as a person. And try to introduce that into your life a bit more. Whatever that is, knitting might bring you joy, might spark that joy. Going to a nearby forest for walks might bring that. I don't know, creating an art from the shells that you found on the beach might bring that joy. So I would encourage, go back into that heart center, find out what you used to love when you were 5. What really, really, really got you excited. Can you bring that into your adult life? And can you feel your life a little bit more? As busy as your life is, and as difficult as it might be, can you bring a little bit of that spark and joy to fill your spirit with that? Our spirit, they need to work hard, but they also need that joyful times to replenish. So that would be my tip for the month.
It's a great one.
Also very great. And with that tip, I would like to take it into the chart. And if you have a birth chart, look at which house you have Leo. Where is the Leo? What theme of your life might be the Leo place right now? So how can you find joy here? How can you find something new? And what is the possibilities with that house right now? So I would go with that tip. And maybe a haircut.
Good one.
I have to say, I was thinking of having a haircut or doing something different with my hair, the new moon in Leo. So let's see.
I love that. I'm going back to thinking about this moon phase of it being a new moon. And for me, new moons are so unconscious, as I mentioned earlier. And I really like to plant those seeds of whatever my intention is for the coming month. I like to plant them really deep and let them just grow from there rather than my mind create it. And for me, the easiest way to get in touch is through my body. I think the moon as ruler of a ruler, because there's so many places in the chart where we see the body, but one of its significations is about the body. And this is an unconscious time. So I think finding a playful way to creatively express your intention with your body is sort of my suggestion and my tip. So if you want to express your creativity by growing in the garden, go give yourself a mud manicure, play in the mud, make a mud pie, plant some things, get messy with it. If it's about, I want to be more artistic, get some finger paints. If it's something I want to do, maybe write that, on your body, get some eyeliner pencils and, write that, but find a way to really feel it in a way that feels playful and maybe a little silly or a little messy, and just kind of set that intention of what you want to see grow in this coming month, and find a way to play with it.
Sounds really awesome. I'm
planning to get some henna. I'm working on a henna design that I want to do on this new moon so that I can just have fun seeing it, on my body.
That is pretty cool.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody out there in virtual land. And Anne and Monica, thank you for making the time to be here and sharing your thoughts. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy hearing different perspectives and thinking in new and exciting ways about what I've been looking at. And we'll see everybody again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. Astro Chat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support Astro Chat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.